At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too. Because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Mike Krueger, and you are watching Coffee with Krueger. And yeah, we're starting off with what's this? We got some showers, even some thunderstorms over southern and even central California here. That's working its way northward, and I tell you what, there is a very good chance that's going to work its way into northern California in the valley. So we're talking about the potential for some showers. And listen, we can't even rule out maybe even a stray thunderstorm for places around the Chico area as well. You can see this morning we're seeing the lightning strikes working its way northward. They started, of course, south of Sacramento. Now we're seeing they work their way north of Sacramento around Woodland and Lincoln and approaching the Yuba City area as well. Now, that's still pretty far to the south, but as we look at the radar, that's going to be working its way northward. So could we see a few lightning strikes this morning, especially for the south end of the valley around Glenn, Butte counties, maybe southern Tehama County? That's not out of the question. As it works its way northward, I do think it'll most likely weaken a bit, but we still could even see a little bit of activity here for, say, even the Redding area by around the mid-morning hours. You're going to notice the clouds. You're going to notice maybe a sprinkle or two, but here's the thing. It is very dry out there. So a lot of what you're seeing here is not going to reach the ground, and you'll be looking at those streaks coming from the clouds. You'll probably see a lot of that in the valley this morning. But if you see a stray sprinkle, a shower, and an off chance for a thunderstorm, especially to the south, do not be surprised. Well, what do you say we get to your Krueger's Quickcast? We've got a lot to talk about this morning, folks. We've got the fires. I mean, quite an interesting event yesterday that we saw with the Root Fire in southern, well, kind of in the Castle Crags area, and it produced a lot of smoke, evacuation warnings and orders and the works. A lot of smoke out towards Mount Shasta City. We're still seeing a lot of activity coming in from the fires in western Siskiyou County as well. So a lot to talk about with that. We'll get into that right after Krueger's Quickcast and then the deeper dive, because it's not just the fires, but it's the thunderstorms that we have in the mountains over the next few days that we got to watch as well. And it's hot. It's still going to be hot out there. Slightly above average highs through the rest of the week, especially Thursday. We do have the mountain thunderstorms today and tomorrow, and maybe even some of that this morning in parts of the valley. Dry lightning is going to be a threat. That's going to be the biggest threat here with any of these thunderstorms. It's a very dry, at least lower levels of the atmosphere. We're seeing mainly in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere that moisture coming in. So we get a lot of these, what we call these high-based thunderstorms, that they're pretty high up there. So a lot of times that rain can't really make its way through the very dry air at the surface. Now, we do have a taste of fall this weekend, folks. We're talking temperatures dropping down about 10 degrees below normal. In the valley, you're talking mid-80s. For those daytime highs. Right now, pretty mild. We're in the low 70s for most of us in the valley, although right around 69 in Red Bluff this morning. We're looking at 45 for Alturas, 57 for Susanville, 52 in Weaverville, and we got those low to mid 50s in the valley this morning. All right, for the coast. All right, let's take a look at out the door this morning. Many of you have a short work week. You're heading out after a 3-day weekend, and you're going to start off with those mild temperatures. 73 in the valley, 50s, 60s for the higher elevations in the coast. You've got those foggy conditions out there this morning. No big surprises there. So we look at the satellite image. There's a few things to talk about. You see a couple of swirls of low pressure, the counterclockwise spin that is, off to our west, northwest. And you can see the rain over central California. Those are those thunderstorms I was pointing out a little bit earlier. So let's take a look at that on the HRRR forecast model. And this one I think is doing a pretty good job. You can see it's kind of picking up on some of the light showers around Oroville at 9 o'clock this morning, maybe Chico and Willows. Maybe seeing some of that. You can see a lot of it, though, to the east of the area. Could we see a stray lightning strike in there? It's not out of the question. But you can see just how weak it is as it moves off to the north and east. But places like Red Bluff, Redding could see at least some streaks coming from the clouds by mid-morning and maybe a stray sprinkle. But that, you can see, not very active by midday. Now, by the afternoon, we're going to see a lot of that afternoon convection develop and thunderstorms begin to develop as well. Now, another thing to take note is how very close that is reaching and getting close to the valley. I think a lot of the foothill locations like Paradise, like Shingletown, for example, may see some thunderstorms out of this as well. And the thing is, it is too close for comfort for the valley to maybe not get caught up in some of this, especially down to the south around Chico and Oroville. I think maybe a little bit too far to the east for places like Red Bluff and Redding, but certainly something worth watching very closely, right? And then you can see as we go into about 6 p.m., still very active. Now, one of the things I want you to take note, and this is what you'll take note during our deeper dive forecast as well, thunderstorms, you'll see, not developing based on the forecast model data in western Siskiyou and Trinity County. This is the trend I saw yesterday. This is the trend we're seeing again today as well. So I don't anticipate much in the way of any activity for Trinity County. There you can see by 11 o'clock tonight, we're still seeing a lot of the activity north and east of the valley, but there's really not much else for anyone else. So for today, where are most of the thunderstorms? Most likely north and east of the valley. It's still hot. Temperatures upper 90s to a little over 100 degrees in the valley. The coast and inland, I think you'll be thunderstorm free as well, not to mention Trinity County. Tonight, we're in the mid to upper 60s for the valley, 50s for the higher elevations and for the coast, so no big surprises there. And your 7-day forecast, notice the word AM I put in there for Chico because I think we could see a stray shower this morning, maybe even an off chance for a few lightning strikes as well. Slimmer chances for Red Bluff and Redding, but if you see a sprinkle light shower this morning, don't be surprised, but most of the day should be dry. Then I do expect to see temperatures stay fairly hot, but a slight dip in those temperatures later this week and a bigger dip in our temperatures by this weekend. We're talking 80s for the valley by Saturday and Sunday. For the coast, mid 60s, partly to mostly cloudy skies, some drizzle at times, especially in the morning hours. I've got that chance for showers for you in Weaverville. We're going to talk about that in more detail on your potential for showers and thunderstorms in Trinity County in general, and just how limited that chance is. Thunderstorms mainly to the north and east of the valley, Siskiyou, Modoc County, eastern mountains in general. Very smoky. If it's not raining or if aren't any thunderstorms in Mount Shasta, it's going to be smoky out there, especially from that root fire pushing a lot of that smoke northward into Mount Shasta City and, of course, Weed as well. That chance for showers and thunderstorms will continue for Wednesday and Thursday. Very limited moisture, by the way, though. And there you can see temperatures really dropping, especially by the weekend and early next week. All right, that's your Krueger's Quickcast. If that's all you needed for the day, have a great day. Now you know what to kind of expect. If you are in the valley, just note that you should be able to work outdoors. Shouldn't be that much of a problem. But this morning, early this morning, don't be surprised if you see a stray shower, especially out towards Chico and an off chance for a thunderstorm. So maybe if you work on a roof, say if you're a roofer, you may want to hold off until midday before you really start doing some of that work, or just keep a close eye to the sky. All right, again, that's your Krueger's Quickcast. Let's take a look at Fire Tracker, and this is sponsored by Garmin's Tractor Service. We're going to take a really close look at the fires that are going on right now, some of the activity we've seen around those fires too. So let's start with the root fire. Now, I don't have a fire perimeter that I can show you for the root fire, but what we can look at is the most recent data coming in from the satellite. So what the satellite does, among many other things, it flies over in space, flies over us, and then we can also see any heat signatures coming from these fires. And that's what you're looking at right there, are these heat signatures from the root fire. So you can see it's to the to the west-southwest of Castle Crags, and those red boxes indicate about 6 to 12 hours old. So a lot of this is what we saw from yesterday and going into last night as well. The root fire, as of about 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, was reported at 350 acres, but I would be willing to guess, due to the fact that it's been a fairly active fire. In fact, I want to show you a satellite image here before we show you anything else. It's not going. Let's see if we can get it going here. There you can see. Before sunset, very active. Of course, the fire really, the root fire, as you can see there, that big plume in the center of your screen there, that big plume is the root fire, and that's what produced a lot of smoke over Mount Shasta yesterday. But overnight, you see a lot of those, see those orange dots there? That's showing still how active those fires are. The root fire was active. We have got the Dillon fire in western Siskiyou County that's still fairly active. You've got the looks like that is the Peak Fire to the west of Trinity Lake. And you've also got the Blue Fire in extreme northwestern Siskiyou County as well. That was fairly active. So you can see those 4 signatures there. But even the Log Fire, you see that an area of smoke that doesn't have much of a heat signature. You see that smoke? That log fire, still a little bit of orange on the map there, indicating that it was a little active out there last night as well. So, you know, just a lot of smoke. And where most of these fires are, as we've been talking about, has mainly been western Siskiyou, northern Trinity, and kind of right there at that line of the county line of, or near the county line of North Shasta and South Siskiyou County. And so again, very active with those fires. What I'm going to do now here is I'm going to kind of pull it up here and take you to the green screen so I can kind of do some better explanation and point out to things as well. So again, these are the heat signatures that we're looking at here. That was about 12 to 24 hours old, but that's what we're looking at here with the root fire. The smoke is moving off to the north and to the east. So if you live in Mount Shasta, especially yesterday, I'm sure it was a big concern because, boy, what a plume of smoke that moved over you yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening. But that fire, based on the latest heat signatures, this is not an exact replica of what we're looking at here, but to give you an idea, as it moves over the crags, you're talking about 9.1 miles that this fire would have to travel in order to get to Mount Shasta City. There's the evacuation order. It is for the Castle Craig State Park. You can also see the evacuation warning for Siskiyou County, 3 different zones there. Once again, 350 acres. All right, that's the latest on the root fire. We do have a latest fire perimeter for the Dillon fire. Not the latest, actually, because this is what I was pointing out yesterday. This is what's known as a fire operation. This is when the firefighters, what they do is they actually intentionally set a fire here. Looks like a bit of on a ridge here. The intention here is this, is that by burning any fuels, that basically creates a line. When the fire bumps up against that, it says, I don't have any more fuels to burn. So in theory, the fire should stop. Now, of course, you got embers that can fly and start spot fires, so that's something that they watch for. However, what's interesting here is you take, first of all, you can see we're at almost 8,000 acres, but this is, you know, pretty recent data as about 3:24 this morning at 7% containment. A lot of evacuation orders and a lot of evacuation warnings as well. So I want to show you the satellite image, and this again really illustrates what's going on here. There's the fire operation that we saw that they developed over 24 hours ago. The theory is that the fire then spreads this way, which it did. You see all this? This is most of the activity we saw last night and early this morning. And again, we're hoping that that fire operation does its job and prevents the fire from spreading any farther to the west. So you get the idea. That's exactly what they did, and that's exactly where it's filled in here as well. Meanwhile, to the south, not a lot of activity there, or to the north. And that's what we want to see, because we have got the community of Cottage Grove that there's a bit of a concern there. All right, now let's take you into Siskiyou County here. This is looking at the blue fire. This is the latest fire perimeter. You can kind of see it's moved up and over the ridge and then down coming on the west side of the ridge. We're looking due west. So this way is west, this way is north out towards Sayet Valley. Just kind of give you an idea what we're looking at here. 2.3 miles. This has not changed since yesterday. And when we look at the fire heat signatures, there you can see mainly on the west side of the fire. One right here, a little bit here, looks like a bit of a spot fire to the north and west of the fire itself. Hopefully the firefighters can get a handle on that. But that fire perimeter we're just looking at, that's the latest, although I'd be willing to guess that it may be a little bit farther to the west than what we're seeing here. Meanwhile, I want to show you this. See this little dot right here, because this is right there in the middle of kind of the Trinity Alps. So you got Etna right here, you've got Hoopa, here's Highway 96, here's Highway 3, right? So between Highway 96 and Highway 3 is where we've got this little fire right here. Now, like when I say little, it's still got plenty of acreage associated with it. When you know, talk about thousands of acres, it's pretty small. 388 acres, 0% containment. We're going to take a look now at, of course, this is the log fire, look at any recent activity, and there is a lot of activity outside of the perimeter itself, so we're probably seeing some spot fires that are developing outside of the fire perimeter. So once again, this is the latest act that I have access to. Most likely the fire perimeter is the new one that comes out, will be a bit larger than what we're seeing here, because we are seeing, again, some of these heat signatures that are outside. And this one's well outside of the fire perimeter. So either the fire has grown to that north and west, or we're seeing spot fires in those areas, and hopefully the firefighters can get on top of those. All right, now we take you out to the Lick fire. This has not actually been updated since August 31st in the afternoon, so there really are no new updates with this, with still 0% containment, about 36 acres. But there you can see, just kind of give you a general idea, about 4.5 miles from Coffee Creek. All right, now there you see the latest activity here. Not very recent data. That's about 3 days old, so we haven't seen any recent activity coming in from the Lick fire. This is the peak fire that we're looking at here, and I just want to show you again, this is something I've really been trying to illustrate, is it's on the face of this mountain, so it's very steep terrain, very difficult for the firefighters to work with here. So let's take a look at the recent activity coming out of it, and it's mainly out on the ridge top here that we're seeing the bulk of any activity that we have seen here. The computer tends to lag a little bit. We've got this data, these boxes, believe it or not, is very heavy data intensive and can work the computer a little bit here. But there's that peak fire at about 6:12 yesterday morning, actually. It's the latest data coming in from this at 432 acres and 5% containment. But as I mentioned, it's that ridge top here that we're seeing the most recent fire activity there coming in from the peak fire here. So it's not moving any closer to these mountain communities of Highway 3 like Covington Mill. As of yesterday, the last several days, 3.5 miles from Covington Mill, 8.5 miles from Trinity Center, and for Coffee Creek, about 13 miles. Again, those numbers have not changed. In the meantime, where we're really not getting a whole lot of data here lately is the Big Cliff fire. Now, the latest data coming in was August 29th at 1:03 p.m., just under 1,000 acres at 75% containment, and again, just a general idea, about 12 miles from Etna. All right, so that's the latest look at the fires. Now, I've been talking about where the bulk of the fire activity has been. There you can see in northern Shasta and southern Tehama County, and then you're seeing the Dillon, the Blue, the Log, the Peak, the Root Fire. All of these are the predominant smoke producers. You can also see the Springs Fire, which the forward progress has been stopped, but it is still expected to produce some smoke here, and you'll see that when we look at the smoke forecast. So once again, I think Mount Shasta City is going to see a lot of smoke as we go through the afternoon today, and there's a lot of smoke also developing. But you'll notice that the smoke, for the most part, is not spreading very far in most cases. So we don't have very strong winds really pushing those the smoke here. There's midnight tonight, a lot of the smoke in central and western Siskiyou County, and then as we go into your Wednesday morning, we're actually seeing some smoke from a fire to the south of us that could bring some smoke out towards Plumas County. In the meantime, we're just not seeing a lot of this smoke spreading much, but then through the afternoon, it will spread northward, and it looks like we could be looking at some pretty big plumes of smoke coming out of the Root Fire here, and even the Springs Fire could be looking at some of that smoke kind of pushing to the north and east around Bernie and into Lassen County. But for the most part, the valley at this point is dodging most of the smoke, but all we need is a quick wind shift, and suddenly it's all over and we got a ton of smoke in the area. So for now, most of that smoke looks to be pushing northward over the next couple of days from most of these fires. Meanwhile, we take a look at the winds here. They're not that strong, although a little gusty outdoors towards the south. You can see this afternoon, a lot of what you're seeing here is going to be thunderstorm-induced winds. So one of the things to take into account when we're looking at the forecast is this. It's not just dry lightning that we're concerned about when we're talking thunderstorms, but since we already have fires out there, a lot of people think, oh, you want the thunderstorm over the fires because that can put the fire out. And that's not necessarily the case, because a lot of times these thunderstorms don't have a ton of rainfall associated with them, and gusty winds are one of the biggest threats along with current fires, right? Gusty winds, biggest enemy for a firefighter. So these thunderstorms can create very gusty and erratic winds from all different directions, and they can be very unpredictable. So if we can keep all of these winds away from where most of the fires are, then we don't have to worry about them as much. So you can see we're not seeing a lot of activity in western Siskiyou. That's great. Why? Because again, that's where a lot of the fires are. Not a lot of activity for northern Trinity County, but there are some gusty winds off to the east that could create some problems with the latest Springs fire fire that developed yesterday morning. But as I mentioned here, the forward progress has been stopped on that. So again, some gusty winds this afternoon. Tomorrow morning, the winds do die down, but we could see those winds pick up for the valley in the afternoon. Notice you're not seeing a lot of winds here, even for the mountains, and we're talking about the potential for thunderstorms Wednesday afternoon, but it doesn't look like it's going to be very active on Wednesday. There's a look at Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. We could be looking at more thunderstorms again, especially off to the east, but still looking at some pretty, we'll call it breezy, borderline gusty winds coming in from the south for your Thursday. So the fire weather risk, taking all that into account, you saw that big dash of red coming in. That's what those winds coming in. It's very hot, it's very dry. So I would say that we have very high fire weather risk here for the valley today. We need to be really careful today, folks. It's dry, it's hot, and it's gusty in the afternoon. Central Siskiyou County and even out towards the east here, you got some of the moderate to high fire weather risk. Taking you into your Wednesday, and you can see here, taking through the afternoon, we're in the moderate to high. I think the fire weather risk is going to drop a little bit on Wednesday, but then probably ramp right back up here as we go into your Thursday. Now, I want to also mention and talk about this a little bit more detail too, because we've got a red flag warning notice for Trinity County and Western Siskiyou County. This also includes Del Norte and Humboldt counties. One of the things that I'd like to mention is this. All of these areas right here in red most likely won't see much in the way of thunderstorm activity, if anything at all. In the meantime, central eastern Siskiyou County, Modoc, and Lassen County, yes, I think there will be plenty of activity, plenty of lightning strikes as well, and that's why dry lightning will be a concern. Now, I mentioned this yesterday. We had a fire weather watch for many of these areas here, which is now upgraded to a red flag warning. Not a lot of activity here, so I think we're just kind of being a little extra cautious here coming in from the National Weather Service offices, which is why you're going to be looking at. Look at this. Now, remember I was showing you where the rain is? Look at that. Look at these dark clouds. This is associated with that rain that's coming in from the south. So I do think that we could see some raindrops for places like Butte County, Glenn County, and maybe, just maybe, an off chance for an isolated thunderstorm as well. So we'll have to watch for that. Now, when I say thunderstorm, a couple of lightning strikes, but probably not a ton of rainfall. All right, there you can see, looking at Highway 99 at Neal Road. Looks like the traffic is flowing smoothly here. Highway 44, Sundial Bridge Drive. Looks like we're looking at pretty good traffic there. Of course, a lot more traffic this morning than yesterday, right? Because yesterday was the holiday. This is looking at Bald Hill West, down into the Hoopa area. There you can see a lot of smoke kind of off in the distance there. We're going to start seeing a lot more smoke, especially as we start looking into the cameras here in western Siskiyou County, for example. So again, just a beautiful morning, looks like right now in the Hoopa area. Here's a look at Soda Ridge. Let me look at some of that, just some of the smoke that's settling into some of those lower spots. Keep in mind, especially when you have a lot of that smoke, what happens is it cools off at night. That cooler air sinks into those mountain valleys. And what happens is it brings the smoke down with it. So you see clearing above it, but that smoke tends to settle down into many of those mountain valleys. So let's take a look right now at Fort Jones. You kind of have a little bit of that going on. You see how it's a lot of smoke here in Jones Valley around the Fort Jones area. And you can kind of just see that layer of smoke. Eventually, as things begin to mix up, heat up, we're going to see that smoke begin to lift a little bit, and we'll start to see more of that haze and smoke working its way in. All right, before we get to our deeper dive forecast, let's check in with some of you this morning and see what is going on. We've got Jackie Dixon from Trinidad saying good morning, and I certainly want to say good morning to you as well. Good morning, Jackie from Trinidad. In fact, let's take a look at a camera in Trinidad. Look at that. We have got some elk. This is north of Trinidad, actually. We have got some elk out in elk country this morning. In fact, right before we went on, I could see that there were a lot of elk hanging out. So it looks like they've kind of moved on a bit, but you can see off in the distance there, right in front of that schoolhouse, we are seeing some elk. So thank you for that reminder, Jackie, for checking out that camera. That's always fun to check out, especially when there are elk in the area. Taking a look from Catherine Schmidt saying good morning. Beautiful red sunrise. Unfortunately, yeah, I agree, because of the smoke. It's kind of one of those catch-22s, right? It can make for a beautiful sunrise, but that is also a reminder of all the fires that we have going on out there this morning. James and Mandy Chappell saying good morning and have a great day, and I certainly hope you have a great day as well. We've also got Curtis Brown this morning just checking in here saying good morning, Mike. Thanks for all the great coverage on the fires. appreciate your hard work. Yeah, you know, it takes a little bit of extra time here in the morning. I was just kind of noting that I was falling a little bit behind on some of my uploads this morning to the web because, yeah, I mean, getting all the data, all the information for these fires is just, it's a very time-consuming process, but you know, it's part of the job, and I'm glad I'm able to do it and get all of this information out to you all. So thank you for watching. Thank you for bringing in the data, and tell your friends and family about where they can get some of the best fire coverage as well as far as what's going on with the fires. So now we get into our deeper dive forecast, and there's still a lot to talk about, folks. It's almost 7 o'clock this morning, and I'll probably go on for another 15-20 minutes here. So let's get you right into it and take a look at our forecast. But before we do that, we need to mention our sponsor. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. Okay, so we take a look at the current conditions out there right now. There is a look at the radar and look at all the lightning strikes, and we have got a lightning strike now, looks to be in Butte County or near it. Let's see here. Yes, look at that, just south of Oroville. So if you're in Oroville, you may have heard a rumble or two of thunder. That's because we've already got confirmation of some of those lightning strikes in the Oroville area, and that's going to continue to work its way northward. So we can't rule out more lightning strikes out towards Oroville, Chico, Willows, for example. As this works northward, maybe a stray shower too. We could be looking at some showers out there as well. Pretty mild, cooling off a little bit in Chico. We kind of tend to see the air cool off a little bit around where these showers are. 65 degrees for Chico, 62 degrees for Willows, 69 degrees for Redding, 40s and 50s for the higher elevations. So there you can see that plume of moisture right here, and that's where those thunderstorms have been really. There have been a lot of thunderstorms here for southern, central California last night and early this morning. And of course, we're now seeing those work their way here into northern California. Low pressure here, another one here. You can't see it, but there's another low pressure spinning here. High pressure over the desert southwest. So with this low pressure and this high pressure, what's happening is it is helping to scoop up that moisture, and that's the source for these thunderstorms that we're seeing begin to develop. There's that spin of low pressure. Now, not just transporting that moisture along with the help with that area of high pressure, but this low pressure has disturbances rotating around it. So we see what we call these little vortexes, or these disturbances that rotate around the area of low pressure, and that's what's helping to squeeze out the moisture. It's also helping to create that just enough instability for those thunderstorms that we are seeing. So that's what's happening as we go here this morning. So this is the HRRR forecast model. We're going to take a look at two different forecast models in the same time frame so we can compare and contrast to see what's going on. Keep in mind with the HRRR forecast model, it updates every hour. It takes the current situation, such as the rain we're seeing in Southern California, or to the south of us, that is, and it takes that into account when generating a new forecast outlook. So let's take a look at that. There's that shower activity. You see how it is getting a little aggressive with that potential for some lightning strikes near Chico. 8, 9 o'clock this morning, even out towards Corning, maybe Red Bluff getting caught up in this. Then we work its way northward around mid-morning. You see how it's kind of breaking apart, not as strong, but you know, we could see a stray shower. And the thing is, it's so dry at the surface that if you are in the valley, you may look up to the sky and see those streaks coming from the clouds. That's what's known as virga. That's rain that evaporates before it reaches the ground. And we could see a lot of that this morning in the valley with the clouds moving in. But that being said, some of those could produce some light showers. And as I mentioned, maybe an off chance for thunderstorms. I think the best chance for lightning strikes will be in Butte, as we're already seeing it in Glenn County. Working northward, those chances may start to diminish, but parts of Tehama, parts around Redding, Palo Cedro, for example, may see a stray lightning strike through the mid-morning hours. By midday, we're starting to see that next disturbance come up from the south, working its way northward. Now you can see here, it is generally staying off to the east. Now there are other models that want to take that and really take this and extend it to the south and west a little bit here and bring it closer to the valley. We'll see what happens with that as we go through the afternoon, but this particular forecast model is now keeping it pretty far off to the east here. But look where also, I'm talking about that potential in the valley. Let's not forget Our neighbors off to the west, Trinity County, Western Siskiyou County, Del Norte, Humboldt counties. You see here, so far since this morning through the afternoon to this evening, the forecast is not showing anything popping up here at all, right? There you can see by 10 o'clock at night, most of it's off to the north and east of the valley. Then we go into tomorrow morning at about 8 a.m., we get a bit of a break. Now look what's happening as we go into Wednesday afternoon. You see this little pop-up? This is just the potential for some isolated, very few and far between thunderstorms developing here and showers off to the east. Now, I would say that the best chances for Wednesday will be Western Siskiyou, Modoc, Lassen, and Plumas counties, and maybe even some of the mountains here east of the valley, just east of the valley as well. That continues through Wednesday afternoon. But look at Trinity County, look at Western Siskiyou County. Looks like most of that activity will be to the east of those areas, and then Wednesday night, still a few leftover showers. So you get the idea. Heavier, bigger activity today, much smaller, less in the way of thunderstorms as we go into your Wednesday. Now let's take a look at Futurecast. This is the in-house forecast model. This is 8 o'clock in the morning. You see how it's not picking up on the showers out towards the Oroville area. Now, it is picking up on that potential that sometime this morning that could be working its way northward. So I think we're in pretty good agreement that, listen, if you see a stray shower in parts of the valley this morning, that is not out of the question. There's midday. Now it's north of the Redding area, but still that potential. Now, this model, remember I was talking about the HRRR had it all pretty much here, but now this model wants to bring it really, just hugging the valley, the foothills in the valley here. So places like Paradise, Magalia, yeah, I think there's a very good chance you will see some showers, not only this morning, but even through the afternoon and maybe even an isolated thunderstorm. But it's getting awfully close to the valley here. So this afternoon, don't be surprised if you're in Corning, Red Bluff, Chico, Oroville. If you see a stray shower or a light shower as well, that could be the case even for Redding. See that? See how it just kind of just hugs East Redding. But then by this evening into tonight, most of it's to the north and to the east. Now remember I mentioned Western Siskiyou County has a slimmer chance. Here we have that. And then you can see, but Trinity County, it's dry. And so is Del Norte and Humboldt counties as well. So remember what I mentioned. We've got to watch these areas here. We don't want thunderstorms developing here because that's when you start seeing those erratic winds. And that's where most of the fires are. And that could create some big problems for the firefighters. 10 o'clock tonight, we're still seeing it north and east of the valley. That continues at midnight tonight, especially in northeastern Shasta and Modoc counties. By the early morning hours, we're seeing a bit of a break. Now, this is what we saw this on HRRR forecast model. Look at this. Our Futurecast doesn't really want to show much, does it? So it's mainly eastern Siskiyou, Modoc, Lassen, Plumas counties that we're seeing that best chance for some of those showers and thunderstorms to pop up. Not very widespread. And I don't expect anything to be all that intense either. Then we take you into your Thursday morning. Look at that, it's dry. Thursday midday, we may see some more afternoon convection here. You see what's popping up here as we go through the afternoon. There it is, Lassen, Plumas, and Modoc County, and maybe even eastern Siskiyou County getting caught up in this. But once again, western Siskiyou, Trinity County, Del Norte, Humboldt counties, most likely not seeing much of that activity here. So a lot of it has to do with moisture content, right? Remember I was talking about how it's very dry at the surface. This is what allows us to see rain and high-based thunderstorms. What I mean by that is you have higher up in the atmosphere is where the thunderstorm or the base of the thunderstorm is. So it's got the rain has a long distance to travel before reaching the surface. And when it's really dry at the surface, that rain tends to evaporate. And that's why we talk about dry lightning threat, right? Because many times that can happen. However, the mountains are higher elevation, so it tends to have a harder time sometimes evaporating. So it's mainly in the valley you tend to see a lot of that. But we still see virga even in the mountains as well. So here we are, 6 p.m. You see how the moisture content here, we've got it here to the north and east, a little bit of a dry slot right here west of Redding. Where is that? That's Trinity County. That's why I don't anticipate much, if any, activity for Trinity County for today. Look at tomorrow, even bigger dry slot right here, even some brown indicating even drier air. But to the north and east of the valley, there you can see that area of green getting into some yellow. That's enough moisture for maybe a few stray thunderstorms popping up. Let's take you into your Thursday. Once again, dry to the west of the valley, Trinity County, but still a chance for a few stray showers and thunderstorms even Thursday afternoon. And then drier air moves in altogether by Friday. and not to mention possibly this weekend as well. So there's Thursday. We take you into your Friday, and really the forecast models are kind of all over the place with that potential for thunderstorms after really Thursday. So for now, I'm going to keep it dry. I'm not seeing a lot of consistency with any rain coming in. This particular storm system we'll have to watch, because not only is this going to be the source for the cooler air I was talking about a little bit earlier, and we'll get into that here in a second, but it also may be a source for more showers and possible thunderstorms. And in fact, the Climate Prediction Center is putting us in a wetter than normal category here. Now, I don't anticipate to see a ton of rainfall with any of these systems here, but certainly normal rainfall for this time of the year, for us to see above normal, is really not a difficult task sometimes, especially this time of the year. So cooler air right here. That cooler air retreats a little bit here, stays fairly hot through tomorrow. But then by Thursday into Friday, we start to see that cooler air begin to move in. That's through the weekend. This is the big drop in temperatures. This storm system is the one that could potentially bring us a better chance for some rain, thunderstorms possibly, and of course, that cooler air. Maybe a bit of a taste of fall here, because we are looking at temperatures most likely around 10 degrees below normal by early next week through a good portion of next week. So very pleasant weather in store for us as we take it through the next week. And it's not just the cooler temperatures that I'm going to be watching, but obviously that potential for some rain. We'll fine tune that chance for rain here as we get past Thursday, but for now, it does look like for some of the mountains, that chance through Thursday. In the meantime, we look at our lake levels here, and they are, of course, obviously still dropping a little bit here, but that historical average is still over 100%. There's a look at your wave heights for today. Let's take a look at your wave heights for tomorrow. They increase a little bit, but at this point, I'm not terribly concerned. If you do need to be on a small boat, your marine forecast is calling for those winds from the northwest at about 5 to 10 knots, with your waves from the north at 3 feet at 5 seconds, and from the west at 2 feet at 10 seconds, and we've got that patchy, dense fog. So here is a look at your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. We take a look at Trinity County to start things off here. There's that chance today. As I was mentioning, this is where I kind of put my reputation on the line here. This could be a complete bust, folks, but I don't anticipate much, if any, activity for Trinity County. Could we see a stray pop-up shower? Could we see one or two lightning strikes, a few lightning strikes in Trinity County? Listen, it's not out of the question, but I don't anticipate there to be widespread activity for Trinity County. Otherwise, you're looking at some fairly hot temperatures over 100 degrees. We take you to the south, 91 for Peanut, 96 for Ruth today, 91 in Mad River, and High-and-Palm, about 98 degrees. Your Dignity Health North Coast neighborhood forecast, temperatures in the 90s for Miranda, Redway, and Garberville, 80 degrees for Redcrest. I'm expecting mainly dry conditions for the coast, maybe minus some of that morning drizzle that we will see. For Tuna, about 70, 72 degrees for Hydesville and Rio Dell, a high of about 71 degrees today. We take you up to the north. It's pretty hot for the inland areas. You're still about 100 degrees or higher. 72 though in Trinidad and Eureka, about 65 degrees. 101 in Orleans, 82 for Gasquet, Klamath, about 67 degrees. Let's take a look at your Dignity Health Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast. Once again, over 100 degrees. I think the chances for thunderstorms for places like Horse Creek, Syed Valley, and even Happy Camp will be a bit slimmer. We don't want the thunderstorms there, because just to the south of Syed Valley is where we've got fire, and we don't want to give that fire any fuel with any winds. But there you can see those temperatures in the mid-90s along the I-5 corridor there. We take you out to Scott Valley. Also a slight chance for thunderstorms there, with 95 for Greenview as well as Fort Jones, 93 for Callahan. Smoky at times when we don't have showers or thunderstorms. And then there you can see through Thursday that continued chance. In the meantime, central eastern Siskiyou County, you got temperatures in the 80s and 90s there. Better chances for thunderstorms for central and eastern Siskiyou County. That'll continue off and on through Thursday. Looks like for the most part, we're drying things out by Friday into the weekend. Here's your Modoc County neighborhood forecast. We've got thunderstorms. I think the first half of the day will be dry for you. It's the afternoon and evening that we'll see the best chance for thunderstorms. Through the day, you've got showers and thunderstorms here here and for the eastern mountains. This will include Bernie, Montgomery Creek, Shingletown, Paynes Creek. All have that chance in there. We take you out towards Lake Almanor, Lassen Park. You've got temperatures in the mid 80s, give or take here, for around the perimeter of the lake here, and for Lassen Park, temperatures in the mid to upper 70s for your daytime highs. We take you down to the south in Paradise. I think you could see some showers to this morning, maybe even an isolated thunderstorm, and maybe even this afternoon. So I've got that chance in there for you on Tuesday. Slimmer chances Wednesday, Thursday. Susanville, that chance continues through Thursday before we dry things out and cool it off too as we go into Sunday and Monday. Here is your Dignity Health Valley neighborhood forecast. Temperatures 90s, even some 100-degree readings out there. Mainly morning showers possibly, even in the afternoon. We can't completely rule that out, but Chico, you've got that chance. Temperatures in the mid to upper 90s for Wednesday, Thursday. Mid to upper 80s here for Saturday, Sunday, and into your Monday. All right, here is a look at your Valley neighborhood forecast to the north, sponsored by Dignity Health. We're looking at about 102 for the city of Shasta Lake and Redding, 100 in Cottonwood, and 98 degrees for Whiskeytown. And here's your 7-day forecast for Redding. Now, as I mentioned, we could see by mid to late morning hours some light shower activity, off chance for a lightning strike even in the Redding area, and maybe even for the mid-afternoon hours. But I think most of it will be east of the valley, as mostly in the mountains of Shasta, Tehama, the mountains of Butte County, working its way into Lassen and Plumas counties, Modoc, and even into Siskiyou County as well. But you can also see this is really that cooler air I was talking about, upper 80s for the weekend, mid 80s by the time we get into Monday. So could we be saying goodbye to summer? Well, probably not. But as you may or may not know, we did on September 1st fall into the first day. September 1st is what's known as the meteorological first day of fall. So that's where we're kind of at. Meteorologically speaking, and we are going to start feeling more like fall by the time we do get into the weekend and even into early next week. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us this morning, and hope you have yourselves a great, for many of you, maybe a 4-day work week. It's always nice when you've got that extra day to kind of just take it easy. The camera, I need to kind of bring it down a little bit, don't I? I don't know what happened to it. Is that better? Yeah, that's a little bit better here. But we're going to leave you with a couple of great shots here. We've got Soda Ridge that I'm looking at here this morning, and that's an absolutely gorgeous shot this morning. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up and get you ready for your day. I will be back again. And by the way, keep checking in throughout the day. I've got your noon and your evening forecast that will be fresh with new forecast model data. And of course, I'll be back again here tomorrow morning on Coffee with Krueger at 6:30 in the morning. Have yourselves a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.